Happy Friday. It's January 1st, 2021. That God-forsaken 2020 is in the past. Hopefully you guys had a safe night, enjoying the night of festivities, no matter what you did. Whether you stayed at home, you went out, had a small get-together. Hopefully you enjoyed it, man. I really do hope you guys enjoyed it. It was a long year, and, man, to close out the year on some good sports, some good holidays, some good friends and family time, that's what you want, right? That's what you want. Yesterday, small slate for NBA. A couple games in the daytime. Do I have it open? Yeah, I do. Of course I do. Two games that floated before the main slate on DraftKings. Otto Porter Jr. led the entire slate of the whole day in fantasy points. The Chicago Bulls suffering the loss of several players due to COVID-related restrictions. Otto Porter, 28 real points, 5 three-pointers made. I talked about Otto Porter in my core play video this morning for FanDuel. I feel like he's a little too underpriced for what his strengths are, for what the game script will probably be for him in that spot. Westy was up there. We don't have to worry about Westbrook tonight. Harden, same song and dance. On the main slate, Richaun Holmes was the beast to have. 5,200 on DK. Similar price on FanDuel. Just went bananas against the Houston Rockets. Christian Wood sufficed. There was some post-main slate lock shenanigans with the Toronto Raptors, right? If you guys weren't around for that, Pascal Siakam was not listed in the starting lineup, so it became a little fishy, right? Like, wait, he's not starting, and then people, initial reports said he was going to be active, but wasn't starting, and then people were like, you're not paying that man that much money to come off the bench, so unless it was disciplinary, what's the case? And there was thoughts that it was disciplinary, like a one-game benching or something like that. Long story short, we were kind of running around like chickens with our heads cut off to make late swap adjustments. He ended up being 17, almost 18% owned in the FanDuel tournaments that I played, Pascal Siakam, that is. So there was virtually no rake last night if you were able to late swap him out. And I think that was a huge benefit of late swap. If you are a grinder, you can take advantage of that, and then a 16% rake contest becomes no rake. Fred VanVleet was a fantastic play. Had 47 and a quarter on DK at 7,200. I think a lot of us thought that maybe OG Anunoby and maybe Chris Boucher would become better plays. They did. Norman Powell was a really nice value play, but there wasn't like a whole lot of incredible fantasy production from that game. Sans Siakam, it was just a 183 total. The Raptors to have was VanVleet and Powell. Everybody else was pretty average. And then on the Knicks side, Julius Randle, one of the more popular plays on the day, finished just shy of 40 fantasy points. The minutes were still there, but no one else on the Knicks really were impactful plays. Maybe if you got some Kevin Knox, but the game kind of trolled a lot of people because a lot of interest were on the Knicks due to their high projected minutes, and of course a lot of interest on the Raptors because you can project them for pretty decent minutes. Heck, their starters 36, 37, 34, 35 minutes. Just wasn't there. The process was right if you guys went and pieced together some swaps to get more Van Vliet and get Siakam out of there. But the game just didn't flourish. I guess you wouldn't really expect the Raptors and Knicks to be a juggernaut of a game stack anyway. But that was the story of last night. Outside of that, it was just, did you get Rashawn Holmes in your lineup? Did you get Christian Wood? And did you cash? I made out on the profit side, so we really closed the year with a bang. And hopefully we'll start with a bang. We got a big Friday night slate, tons of games, and a couple of spots that are creating some higher-owned, higher-buzzed players. Shout out to the live chat, Buff Studwell, Dan Kephart, Happy New Year to you. Demol, Snoopy, Sway McThunder, Master Wanderer, Jeff B, Neto, Chalk Day. Especially on DraftKings, I think so. Anyway, let me close out the DK Live app. We'll make some plugs here in a little bit. We are going to be using the RunDFS.com VIP spreadsheet before. Sorry, I got distracted. We're going to be using the RunDFS.com VIP spreadsheet. I am going to drag in Raj for his Harrison Barnes victory lap. Yo.
We in the building. Another day, another grind.
All right, check this out. It's the first, right? We all have resolutions, right?
Yeah.
Been juicing. Last week, hallelujah, well, backslid a little bit, okay? It's Christmas, gosh darn it. But we're back on the juice grind. We're back on the smoothie grind. So you've heard of Smoothie King, right?
Yep.
Well, I need coffee, man. I'm an old man. I need coffee. Well, they got some protein coffee, chocolate, peanut butter. I don't know what it is, but it drinks like a shake. But it's I guess it's serving my juice needs and also my coffee needs. So you might be seeing me sip on that. But I just want to point out that the cup that they sent it in is massive. The straw is not. It's like they sent me a straw smaller than the cup. So when I get to the bottom,
I think you're the only guy I know that would like Uber Eats a smoothie.
DoorDash, thank you very much.
Yeah, DoorDash, same chip is just not a thing to do.
I mean, really?
Like a smoothie, yeah. I feel like I want to just go there, get it, drink it right away. I don't know.
I mean, it's cold. I don't know. It's cold outside too. It's nasty out there.
Gosh.
But anyway, that's the resolution. You got a resolution, Raj? You can start cashing this shit?
Definitely grow the Jalen Carter brand. Release a couple songs. First one coming out mid-January. And probably get leaner. I want to just shred down, eat healthier. I'm one to I'll work out, but I'll eat like a 20-piece nugget in a Big Mac after. So trying to clean up the old diet like that.
For all that, this is the year, man.
It's the year.
This is everyone's year. If you're watching, this is your year.
Yeah.
It's your year.
Maybe find love like Gun too. Maybe find true love. That's always a nice thing to do.
We found love in a Fortnite squad.
Hey. That's definitely a 2020 love story. Found love in Fortnite, baby.
Bro, that's gonna be crazy. Anyway, I'm gonna open up the RunDFS.com NBA VIP spreadsheet. We're gonna start diving in to this massive slate. Echo, several studs, several value spots, several high totals. It's gonna be a fun night. Fun night of basketball as a real life fan, and hopefully a fun night as a DFS player. What up, Dang Lacy Mofo? Happy New Year to you. Thanks for being your alarm clock. Hey, I think I can help. I'm glad I can help. Billy Brisbane, Happy New Year. I love how you show your face now. That setup is dope. Appreciate it. You like my tree? I gotta change it up though.
Yeah, Christmas is done.
Christmas is done. I will have this tree up until July. Dag nabbit. What up, Eric Ishsmith? My voice a little low? Maybe I gotta talk a little louder. I don't know. Anybody else think I'm a little low? Is Ish Smith a better basketball player than Neto? I think that's subjective to the criteria that you're looking for. I think Ish Smith is a journeyman with his strengths, right? I think he could help a struggling offense, but it has to be like average to below average players. I think Raul Neto has his strengths. I think he's a pass first guy, maybe a better defender than Ish Smith. So being a basketball player in terms of what's good, what's bad, is really just what the needs are as a team. I think in this scenario, Washington has plenty of scorers, right? Bradley Beal, Thomas Bryant get a bucket. There's still Hachimura. There's still Davis Bertans. So why not have a defensive first guard like a Neto who can also facilitate? So I think that's subjective. I don't know. RotoWire has Tyus Jones projected for 41. I'm gonna go with the under there. But yeah. So hey, Chad, does my voice sound good? James, do I sound better? I think maybe I just needed to talk louder. But if we're good and you guys are good, we'll get cranked up.
A lot of games to go through. Let's go.
All the way down. Miami Heat at the Dallas Mavericks. First game on the docket. Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, Jimmy G, buckets. Mo, how could you be so heartless? Bam Adebayo, your projected starting lineup. That Heat lineup could be different. You could see Myers Leonard in the lineup. You could see Dragic in the lineup. This is just something that was scrapped over. I was looking at RotoWire and Fantasy Labs. They had different projected starting lineups, so it could change. Up against Luka Doncic, Tim Hardaway Jr., Josh Richardson, Dorian Finney-Smith, and Dwight Powell. We got 2-2-2 and another 1-2 as our total 222 and a half. 1 point spread in favor of the Miami Heat. I think even though the total is like okay, overall I think the tone of this game is just like, man, is there really price points to exploit? I guess you could argue that Luka Doncic is at least at 10.3 on DK. He's just that guy that people keep trying to get, and he just hasn't got there for one reason or another, whether it be right or wrong side of blowouts or just the tough matchups. He has not exceeded 50 fantasy points yet. Against the Clippers, I think he was well on his way, but a blowout put him at just 26 minutes. And then Phoenix and LA, just didn't get there. The points have been there. The peripherals are there. We're just waiting for that magical game for it to all come together. Could it be against a tougher perceived defense like the Miami Heat? So far through this early start of the season, Miami Heat have allowed the fewest fantasy points per game to opposing point guards. But we know Luka's just kind of different. So I think the game theory for tournaments is there for Luka at 10.3. On FanDuel 11.3, I'll probably not be overly invested, but I still think it's a range of outcome. I don't really see anybody else on this Mavericks team at a price point that I don't just look at like a Memphis team or a Hornets team. That's kind of my standard for this slate. Is I love the cherry pick from that one. But on the Heat side, if Jimmy Butler's back at 8K, kind of feel like there's some room there. But is everyone priced a little bit out of comfort, considering the matchup, considering the fact that it's a giant slate, right? If in these 10-game slates, we're likely going to need 400 fantasy points to cash. 7-8 is a nice price on Butler. 40 to 45 is cute, but do I get 50 plus? Is there anything in this game you have to have in your player pool tonight, Raj?
I mean, one of these days, Luka's going for 70. It's just going to happen because Luka, it seems like he just, they're blowing teams out, so he's not getting the minutes in the game that he was decent. Other games, he's not getting there. Just not taking as many shots some games. The peripherals are there close, but not all the way there. I mean, this game I might just scratch this one out just because Miami's a good defensive team with Butler. So if Luka breaks out here and has that game, good. I think I'm going to full fade Luka here. And probably this game in general. Again, 10-game slate, probably want to cut it down to 8 to 6, something around those range would make it a lot easier. So this game's just a cross out for me.
Yeah, he's technically the most expensive guard on the slate on DraftKings since Westbrook's out. Trey Young's a couple $100 cheaper in a game that went to a 280 total the other day.
That's stupid, yeah.
Actually nuts. And then there's other cases to be made here. I think if you just open up the whole slate, just Nikola Jokic and Giannis is above him. I just think that price point on DraftKings, I wouldn't have none unless I was running one lineup and I just felt like I didn't want it. I don't think I would have none. I think that extra 1,000 on FanDuel where you don't get as rewarded with like double, triple bonuses, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think on FanDuel I can stay away a little bit easier. But man, that DK price, I feel like I'd have to have a piece. DKP by game log versus Heat. Let's go last 5 games on Luka versus the Miami Heat. 41, 38, 46. So even his short sample size history against the Heat is pretty bad. So I can see the field just kind of, 10% sure, staying away. It is a James Johnson revenge game. If he doesn't get ejected. And that's, there's nothing here that I feel like I have to have. Bam Adebayo is a little bit curious at 82 on DK. I know Jimmy's back, but this is a matchup that I think could benefit him pretty well. He even overperformed in that last spot against the Bucks on night 2 of a back-to-back without Jimmy. But there's just really nothing here that's just popping at me that I have to play to get ceiling in tournaments. Daku Cat. How about a picture of the cat as your new background? The cat is on the way. Well, it's not on the way yet. A couple weeks. It's gonna be
I'm pointed.
Strap your boots. What up, Gun? What up, Strap? Dan, James Johnson really overpaid for you. I can see that. Gun, you're hands down the best NBA analyst on Yahoo. On Yahoo? I don't.
Is that saying much? Who plays Yahoo?
Am I on Yahoo? I don't understand that. I appreciate the compliment though. J Rich is nice at 4,900. Yeah, I guess it's a revenge game for him, but sure. 49 if he got 25, 35 fantasy points, I'd get there. On YouTube, okay. Hey, I appreciate that. There's a lot of good ones out there, though. I'm just trying to be me. When producing lineups, do you usually adjust the total lineup minimum, maximum exposure? Yes, that's a must for me. More so, this could be a whole video in itself, and I've discussed it with the VIPers a lot. I personally hand approve my player pool. So if you guys are seeing people win tournaments with 100, 150 lineups, you're like, oh, I just got to get an optimizer. 150, click optimize, boom, money. That's not how it works. For me, I'll log into. I don't think I could. I don't want to show Fantasy Labs on a free stream. I don't know if they're like. I don't want to offend them. Like I don't want to give away their stuff, right? But I'll log into an optimizer and I'll unselect everybody in terms of being an active part of the player pool, and then I'll go team by team and start vetting members of each team. If I don't like a team or a game, I just don't put them in there. So by the end of a certain, 6-game slate, I could have 20, 30 players in my player pool. Boom, they're in there. And then I'll set my min-maxes. Now, I usually only set my mins for like my core plays. Guys I want 50% of, 60% of, or guys that I know that I'll have to leverage the field somehow by either being overweight. And I don't really I don't purposely go underweight on people. Usually if they're high enough that I have to ask myself to be over or under, a lot of times I'll just either go all or none. And then I have 3 tiers of players. I can show this much. My tier 1s, these are guys that I will min and max. My tier 2s, I might also set a min on some of these guys and max them. I'll probably have like no more than 30% of a tier 2. And then tier 3s are guys I think could do well. And I'll usually just max them at like 20, 25%. And if they fall, they fall. I'm not going to force min 5%, 10%. If they just fall in there, they fall in there. And then my core value, I'll min and max them. And the same with the risky value. If they fall, they fall. So, yes, I do personally set min and max exposures, but there's a little bit more of an elaborate process behind it, right? Part of my Ebonics, but it's pronounced the cool cat. Oh, the cool cat. Okay, the cool cat. I get it. I like it. Let's get to the next game on the docket. We're starting a little bit sluggish in terms of appealing fantasy games, but nonetheless, game number 2, the Detroit Pistons hosting the Boston Celtics. Project starting 5 for the Celtics. Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Tristan Thompson, Daniel Tice taking on Killian Hayes, Sadiq Bey, Josh Jackson, Jeremy Grant, and Mason Plumlee. 213.5 total, 8.5 point spread in favor of the visiting Boston Celtics. Blake Griffin out. A couple of Q tags here on Okafor and Hayes. I think I saw Okafor probable, and I don't have the latest on Killian Hayes. Still a Q tag, questionable Q tag. So I guess you can make a case if Killian Hayes was out with Blake Griffin being out. Maybe like a Derrick Rose might sneak into 30 minutes of 25 to 30% usage and have a solid game. But overall, like Jeremy Grant, almost 7K against the Celtics. Doesn't feel like something I'm pushing. Mason Plumlee still, I think, could be point per minute and be a solid 25 to 35 window. But I think I have to push that on this size slate, right? I really want to extrapolate pure ceiling plays. I think I could sleep just fine tonight knowing I full faded the Pistons, the Celtics, the Tatum and Jaylen Brown Ferris wheel is going. But even then, I do feel like the pace is a little bit lower. Maybe I have some auxiliary shares of like a Brown Tatum, but there's no excitement and no confidence there. Tatum 9.5 on FanDuel. I could probably write him off almost completely at that price point. Am I sleeping on Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum? Do these guys just have to go off every slate for the next 2 months for me to be like, yeah, okay, I need to get some, or have they just been like benefactors of just like really good opportunities? Because you look at Jaylen Brown's positive games to start the season: 57, 33, 42. So we're looking for the 52 in game 1, the 42 game 2, 57 at 8,100. Game 1, competitive game against the Milwaukee Bucks. Bucks high-scoring, fast-paced team. Game 2, not as competitive against the Brooklyn Nets, but still the Nets are a team that's going to score quite a bit. They were on the wrong side of that. It was Christmas, whatever. Barely became a decent play at 8,100. And then the last game, 42 real points is a lot of real points. An upper-paced Memphis Grizzlies team took 20-plus shot attempts and had a little bit more responsibility with a couple guys being out, and shot an incredible 7 for 10. It's very up and down. So I think, Raj, I think I want to stay away from this game and hope for the best.
It's one of those things. You have no Kemba, so you know the use is going to be those two. Tatum, if you saw the last game, that thumb bothered him. Like he was questionable with little sprained left thumb.
Yeah,
it bothered him. He only took 12 shots. Played 23 minutes. Like the thumb definitely bothered him. So in a way, you're not getting Tatum at 100%. Seems like maybe he's at like 70. So Jaylen Brown should lead this team in shots. I think he should lead this team in usage. He's going to be the guy. So against the Detroit team, I'm not worried about defensively. It's not a comfortable click, but there's still upside there at 8K. You know, again, if Kemba was ruled out right now and they said Tatum was hobbled, Jaylen Brown would probably be chalk.
Against the Detroit Pistons, like this game is still likely a blowout, right?
You think so? Like I don't think Boston's that good.
Why don't you?
I mean, with Kemba out, like I mean,
you were saying that against the Grizzlies, and they went back.
I know, yeah, I did overrate the Grizzlies there. I definitely did.
I think you're underrating the Celtics. Like we can't. Every team basically has been blown out once, right? Like
what's the over under? What's the spread on this game?
What's the spread? It's 213.5.
13.5.
We're talking like Raptors Knicks levels.
But Boston are favored by
8.5. The Pistons have no Blake.
No Blake. I mean, yeah. Jeremy Grant and Derrick Rose keep it close. It's one of those games where if I'm going to play Jaylen Brown, I'm going to play Jeremy Grant with him.
You can have it.
Like, yeah, I mean, hey, in this massive
7K for Jeremy Grant here, is there really a ceiling at this price point?
I'm just telling you, both these guys hit that close to 45 to 50.
I'm off.
The last game. I mean, it's Golden State though. That's probably the easiest.
Yeah, these matchups that Jeremy Grant has been popping off at, just like way soft. This is the Boston Celtics. I know
Derrick Rose,
Kemba's out, but this is still a strong defensive core. And remember that last game, TT was out as well. So like this defense gets a little tighter. I'm just not there. I do think there's a range of outcome that Tatum or Brown is just like a fantastic play, but man, it just seems I think I'm gonna stay away from it. Let me go look at the live chat, see what we got. The Gun. I came late, but did you apologize for killing Raj for Barnes' core play? So I actually got a tweet like that.
Talk about it. Barnes doing his thing.
No. I actually got a tweet like that. and a YouTube comment yesterday. The fact that it worked was never the debate. Like, I thought Harrison Barnes was a fine option at small forward yesterday. The fact that he said he was a core play, like, let's not be results orientated. Let's talk about the process behind that statement.
I mean, that whole team did kind of go off that.
Yes, but like Harrison Barnes historically is such a low floor, median ceiling guy that I would never like be so quick to call it a core play. It worked. If you had it, it worked. But if Harrison Barnes had 25 fantasy points, you wouldn't have been surprised. And that's just what Harrison Barnes is. I had plenty of Harrison Barnes. He was on all of my top lineups. But it wasn't it's not somebody a core play to me is like I want at least 60, 70% of that guy because I just think he's that strong. It worked. Congrats. But also, if we're going to celebrate that, the same sentence, Raj said, give me all the Harrison Barnes. Give me none of the Christian Wood. Okay?
I ended up playing 33%.
And that's even worse. He came on here and said no Christian Wood and said
I was going to fade, and then somehow when you look at the numbers, I just ended up with 30%. He was fitting. He just fit. And yeah, it worked out.
Tout life, guys. Tout life.
Sometimes you don't like a play, but you put it in, you put it in the machine and it just spits out names. You're like, okay, it fit.
What are you doing on FanDuel Cast? Small forward Otto Porter or Josh Jackson is where I'm stuck. So early on, I was liking Otto Porter. We'll talk about that a little bit more. Josh Jackson, I still think is fine, but I think against the Celtics, I'm going to start lowering the roof on some of these ceilings. Jackson can still get you 25-30, but I think the upside is in Otto Porter. And if you guys missed the slate yesterday, or really if you didn't realize it, the Bulls did play yesterday. That game wasn't on the main slate, but Otto Porter led all fantasy scorers on the entire day. So he has that type of potential at 4,500, and he's in a pace-up spot. And I'll go even deeper in just a minute. But I'd probably lean Otto Porter right there early on. Celtics have a history of playing down to average teams. I could understand that. Harrison Barnes, 40, just confirms you can play any forward against Houston.
I mean, you stack teams against Houston, yeah?
Yeah. And Rashawn Holmes, 50, so on and so forth. I don't disagree with that. I was in the moment, even now, like tomorrow, I don't know who they play, but I'm saying like on the next slate, Harrison Barnes doesn't all of a sudden become a core player for me. But it does speak volumes to what the Houston defense is allowing. Next game on the docket, probably my favorite game as a stack. The Charlotte Hornets hosting the Memphis Grizzlies. Project starting 5 for the Grizzlies.
Second favorite.
Tyus Jones, Desmond Bain, Dylan Brooks, Kyle the Andersons got tickets to the game. How'd they get tickets? Jonas Valanciunas up against the homie Devontae Graham, Terry Rozier, Gordon Hayward, P.J. Washington, and Bismack Biyombo, the Big Mac Bimbo. Just a 220.5 total. 4-point spread in favor of the Charlotte Hornets. But man, oh man, is there some value in my mind in this game. We'll start with the Memphis Grizzlies side. No, Ja Morant got injured, is going to be out at least a couple weeks. Now it looks like no Grayson Allen. It's going to be plenty of minutes to go around. Dylan Brooks, Kyle Anderson, and Jonas Valanciunas. I believe there's a range of outcome where they all hit today at those DraftKings prices. Is that a likely range of outcome? No, I think the most likely is 2 of 3. But let me start off with Dylan Brooks. Matter of fact, let's go pull on the on-off court tool from Fantasy Labs. I do believe this is a free tool. And let's pull up the Memphis Grizzlies. And I'm just going to take Ja Morant off. And I might as well click. I can't even click Jaren Jackson. But on this season, just 4-game sample size, the usage rate for Dylan Brooks jumps to 32% with just Ja Morant off the court. Kyle Anderson is at 27.4%. 65, 72 minutes, low sample size. But usually the magic number for me to really be interested in usage and bumps is like 28, 30, and like that's like unfadable territory. But if you're over like 24%, I'm still a buyer. Kyle Anderson and Dylan Brooks have also just been in different matchups, including like the Boston Celtics. I think this matchup is so pure. We've already seen several team stacks just kind of pay off against the Hornets, and we saw that last year as well. Let's move this sample size back to just last regular season. We're going to keep John Morant off the court. But we're going to go in and we're going to just take off a couple guys that we know don't exist. But really just Jaren Jackson Jr. is the main one. But as long as John Morant and Jaren Jackson are checked off, those are two of the higher usage guys that were on the squad last year. And we keep Dillon Brooks and Colin Anderson on the court. Usage rate, 33% for Dillon Brooks. And Colin Anderson is a lot lower at just 17.8%, but still about a fantasy point per minute. And then Jonas Valanciunas is about 24.5% at over a fantasy point per minute. So I guess what I'm saying is I like Dillon Brooks today.
I'm with it.
And I think, there's a world where he takes 20 to 25 shot attempts today. I just think that's a plausible range of outcomes against the Charlotte Hornets. The Hornets so far this season, defensively, 105.6 points per 100 possessions, and their pace is at 102.6 possessions a game. So it should be an up-tempo game, at least in short sample size. And I just think there's enough meat on the bone for Brooks and Anderson to get there. And then Jonas Valanciunas, I think, could be a guy that drops 40 to 50 fantasy points. I love big
Centers have destroyed Charlotte, right?
Yeah, dating back to last season, yes.
Yeah.
The last game he played just 24 minutes in a lopsided game against the Celtics, but had 10 more fantasy points than minutes played. If this game stays more neutral, we get 30 minutes out of J-Val. He's a guy that could average 1 to 1.2 fantasy points per minute. Just historically, without John Morant, you give him a plus matchup. I think you can 3-live crew these three starters. And then I think if you dig to the bench a little bit, there's some meat on the bone, I think, for Brandon Clark. 4,800 on FanDuel, 5,100 on DK. Could I get 30 fantasy points out of him? I definitely think that's a possibility. So I like opportunities to game stack or at least team stack, and I think this is one of them. I wouldn't get overzealous with a full-on team or game stack on a giant slate like this, but I love the price points. Now we go look over the Charlotte side. Charlotte's a little bit, I think, more volatile in terms of their range of outcomes, and I think the last game, just in a nutshell, showed what could happen, right? Like, I was all about the Hornets against the Mavericks, but I had, like, Devontae Graham, Gordon Hayward, P.J. Washington, and it ended up being LaMelo Ball and Miles Bridges. LaMelo Ball, 29 minutes off the bench, shot a ridiculous 70%, including 4 for 5 from 3, and then peripheraled his way into a massive fantasy point game, 44.5 fantasy points. At 5,300, I guess there's at least some merit in going after that because it is a possibility, right? Like, this isn't if you are fans of LaMelo Ball, you know that this was possible, and this is what his upside is. So I do think in deep field, if we're running 150 lineups against 3K or 300K entries, that's there. The other guy that benefited was Bridges. Now, I don't want to point chase those two. I still want to kind of lean towards the Devontaes, and probably most notably for me is P.J. Washington, 5,600 on DraftKings. On FanDuel, he is, I think he's right around the same. I didn't put the dots in his name. Let me double check. He was part of my video this morning. He's 6,300. I think P.J. Washington legitimately has 40-plus fantasy point potential in this matchup. And the reason being is in game one, Cody Zeller got injured. And then after that game, we started seeing P.J. Washington stagger with Bismack Biyombo with center minutes. And what that did was it raised the floor a little bit on P.J. Washington's peripherals. And we saw 8 and 12 rebounds in the 2 games following Zeller's injury where he had to play center minutes. He would spell behind Bismack Biyombo, still taking double-digit shot attempts. It kind of fell through against the Mavs, but that's because he had 5 fouls in 18 minutes. It was a blowout. I think if he stays out of foul trouble here at 5,600, he legitimately has 40-plus fantasy point potential, and I like the price point on him. He's probably my favorite Hornet in terms of projecting a floor to ceiling.
Give me Gordon Hayward. Give me all the Gordon Hayward after he lets the world down. 7-1. He shot 4 for 16 and still got you 25 fantasy points. He's the man on this team. Devontae Graham, Terry Rozier move over. LaMelo's cute. Those plays are cute, but this is Gordon Hayward's team, and this just screams 28, 7, and 7.
I like Hayward as a play, but PJ Washington points per dollar is still kind of there for me. I just think Hayward still has a world where he gives you 35 fantasy points here.
Yeah, yep.
PJ,
and
as long as PJ stays out of foul trouble, I just don't see how he plummets your lineup.
I hear you. And I feel like Anderson is their de facto point guard. I know Tyus Jones is out there, but Anderson's the guy, especially last game with the ball in his hands. He got 9 assists. So, I think Anderson and Brooks both have similar upside. It seems like you're a little higher on Brooks. I kind of view them the same. And, Valanciunas, again, at the 8K price, I can get you 50, so I'm there. But if I want to rank them, I would have Brooks and Anderson tie for 1, and then Valanciunas 2. And I like Hayward over Washington, but again, close. Love this game. Play the guys. I'm not going to chase LaMelo or Miles Bridges.
Yeah, I'm definitely stay away from Bridges. I would say if I was running 100 to 150, there might be I might check LaMelo in the pool and have a cap of like 5 to 7%.
Yeah, I guess it is a pace up spot.
But that would be like if I set some rules. No Devontae. LaMelo, like I would just kind of.
Seems like Devontae and Terry Rozier's, the more LaMelo plays better, their upside's getting capped.
I think you draft LaMelo for a reason. Like I think eventually he's your starting point guard. They're building to that. But I like the game stack here. I think this is a very affordable game stack. I think everyone. I think at these prices, I'm like probably not going to have lineups that would have Devontae and Terry. I would probably set a rule to avoid that. I might even really be low on having one that had all three in terms of Devontae, Rozier, and Hayward. But PJ, I'm digging PJ. So, yeah, I like this game a lot. Chat, where are you guys here at on here words, Roads? Charles says, Jeremy Grant, 40 points easy. I don't know if that's easy against the Celtics, but I also feel like at that price point, you're almost needing to get to that 40 in tournaments. So it's not like a steal like it was when he was like in the 5Ks. Celtics have starting minutes. D-Rose, sign me up if that's the case. Okay, Young C. Barnes is never a core play unless it's a small slate. Yeah, I guess there was a small slate, but at least Dan is getting the concept behind what that debate was. It wasn't to say Barnes was a bad play. It was to say that the process should never list someone as flimsy as that as a core play. Just because of his low floor and his average at best history. The Andersons got tickets to the games where there are no fans allowed. What are they going to do? What up, Justin Sports? Memphis value rank. I think it's a coin flip on Brooks and Anderson. I think the world is higher on Tyus Jones than I am. Tyus Jones is not going to replace John Morant production. And then if we really just look at what Tyus Jones' strengths are, it's not to be a scorer or a facilitator. We saw this when he was with the Timberwolves. He's really more of a defensive first guy. And there was times where he was hitting value based on his steals for FanDuel. So at 5,100, 30 fantasy points is certainly a possibility. The Charlotte Hornets. I thought I had the turnover rate listed here. The Charlotte Hornets can be loose with the basketball. So like there's a range of outcomes that he can be a fine FanDuel play. But I just I'm not as excited as the field is on Tyus Jones. Like he's not, in my opinion, he's not that dude. And I think 30 fantasy points is probably pushing it more on a most common range of outcome. So I'm probably staying away from that. I guess since like there's no D'Anthony Melton, there's no John Morant, there's looks like no Grayson Allen. I guess there might be a high minute count on him, like 35 is a potential range of outcome. And I guess that would make him a little stronger of a play, but I'm just not excited about it. Desmond Bain should project pretty well though. 3,700 on him. If I get him to 32.5 minutes is what I put at him right now. 20-plus fantasy points is there. So I guess he would probably be number one on the value. But Brooks, Anderson are kind of the coin flip for one for me. And I would probably put Brandon Clark a little higher than J-Val if value is the importance. And then I think J-Val JaVale should be the highest scorer in this game. And he legitimately has 50-plus fantasy point potential in this matchup. Yeah. Charlotte was one of the worst rebounding teams last year. Bismack Biyombo's going to be a little stronger rebound-wise, but his minutes will be staggered enough that I think JaVale can prosper, right? Do you prioritize Beal or Bryant from Washington tonight? I love them both. Based on which site you were talking about, I think Bryant has a better opportunity to outperform his salary, but Beal's usage should just be amazing. He could drop 50 to 60 as well.
Yeah, he's got a ton of usage. It's just like interesting, I think, when we get to the game with like Beal versus Kyrie. Like I think everyone's going to scream Beal, but I think Kyrie against Atlanta, it's not like if he could outscore Beal, no one would be shocked.
Brandis' best punt play: Thad Young, Raul Neto, Bain Pritchard. On DraftKings is Neto.
Neto, yeah. It's the matchup. We've seen it.
Yeah. If you guys throw questions like that, maybe be a little bit more site specific because there are some contrasts in pricing that and play style that would make players better or worse depending on the site. Big game here. Atlanta Hawks and the Brooklyn Nets. A 245 total, a 6-point spread in favor of the home team Brooklyn Nets. This game was bananas the other night. Project starting 5 for the Hawks: Trey Young, Cam Reddish Jr., DeAndre Hunter, John Collins, Clint Capella. Taking on Kyrie Irving, Joe Harris, Timothy Luwawu, Kevin Durant, and DeAndre Jordan. This is one of those games where you don't need me to break it down, right? You know this game's going to be nutty and likely high scoring. The other night, they went really ballistic with a 286 total. So that is very anomalic, and we've seen in years past if we chase games like that, maybe we're let down the second time around after teams make adjustments. But this is kind of the play style we expected from both teams, right? Hawks coming to this season as a fast-paced, porous defense, adding a lot of great offensive players to the mix, and the Nets as well. I know KD historically has been a strong defender, but around him, outside of like DeAndre Jordan's rim protection, their defense kind of gets a little flat when you think about Kyrie and Joe Harris and stuff like that. So I think there's a chance this game can curtain call what happened that night. But I think we'll also, take a little deeper dive into the box score. Kyrie Irving shot just 10 for 27 that night. It's incredible. They scored 145 when Kyrie shot under 50%. So people might be a little lower on Kyrie here, but he still took almost 30 shot attempts, led the team in shot attempts. So I'd be willing to go back to the well on him. KD, 60-plus fantasy points, almost triple-doubled. Those are been the 1-2 punch for me. I think I can almost always put them together and try and get 100-plus fantasy points out of the mix. And then past that, if you look at the pricing today versus the production in that game, there's not a whole lot that I want to attack. I think there's always a case that Karis LeVert could get lucky, and maybe somebody's in foul trouble, or it's just Karis LeVert's popping off in a fast-paced game. But I think Kyrie and KD are the two guys I'm leaning on. You put them together for 18-4 on DK, very close on the same price on FanDuel. I think 100-plus fantasy points is what you kind of want to net back, and I think maybe even 120 in this scenario. So is it a perfect game where they score 145 points again? That's a little on the ceiling side, but they scored 145 with Kyrie missing 17 shots. So
I'll say this game stayed close because Kyrie missed that much. If Kyrie has a regular shooting game, I feel like this game might be a 15-point game.
Maybe.
I'd be a little worried about the blowout here.
Yes. I think that's fair to say with just about Nets against anybody. But I also think this Hawks team is great offensively. Trey Young, John Collins, Bogdanovich, these are all guys that could get there just fine. Added Rondo to the mix. Is he playing today? No, he's not.
Has Trey Young's usage been less just because there's more talented offensive players on his team this year? It just seems like it. Like he's been relatively efficient.
That's not how usage works, Raj.
I'm just saying. I mean,
has
it been?
You could argue maybe there's fantasy point per minute or fantasy points are down, but no, usage is absolute. 18 shot attempts, 11 assists. No, usage is defined as the end of a possession. So if he turns the ball over, that goes towards usage, right? Like it's.
I mean, I get it. Yeah, you just think with Bogdan there, obviously galvanized out this game, but
they would have.
No, as a guy who can rack up assists, that helps him. You could argue maybe the top's off his ceiling a little bit with some of those other guys that could spread it out a little bit, but I don't think it's suffering his usage. Yeah. So what do you do with this game? It just dropped 280 real points.
The Atlanta side, there's no Gallinari. He's out. So I kind of like Bogdan at his price. Again, should kind of lead that second unit. He still plays with the starters. Got 33 last game at 5,400. If he gets a little more, that's good for you. Collins is an interesting one. I mean, last game we were worried about the fouling, but he drops 30 and 10 and wins you the slate. It seems like attacking Kevin Durant this year is the play. So that's who he was being guarded by. So do you go back to him or is it a chase?
So Steve Nash said that he didn't want Kevin Durant to exhaust himself on defense too soon.
Exactly.
So I think sure you can go back to him, but remember John Collins still can be a foul problem. He's gotten 4 fouls in every game.
He had a ceiling game.
Yeah, it was up there. Double, 30 real points. Again, if you don't think that the Hawks score 140 points, start taking some points away from these guys. Like John Collins.
I'll give him a regular 110 maybe. 115.
Yeah. So 30 real points in a double, and you only got 48. It feels a little soft, but yeah, I think John Collins is in play. I'm not gonna tier 1 him by any stretch because fouls is an issue or are an issue for him. But yeah, you can go back to the well on these two. I think Trey Young, Collins are the first 2 names to kind of stick out. Rajon Rondo played 14 to 16 minutes that game, so maybe those minutes open up. We do have some other outs on this team, some more maybe minute eaters, Gallinari, guys like that. So maybe there's 35 to 38 minutes of Trey Young in a competitive game. I would take that at a 50 plus. The idea for me with Trey Young is Trey Young contrarian today? And the reason I think that could be is because Bradley Beal is not contrarian for what $600-700 less.
Yeah, people are going to play Jokic with no Michael Porter, and he's just been killing it.
So if we could project Trey Young to be under 15%,
do you just have him?
After being
I think he's good for like. I don't think he kills you. I think he's good for like between 45 and 50. I just think how often is he getting that 60, which is probably what you need to take something down.
I don't know, man. 50 plus in 3 or 4 games so far.
Yeah, it's pretty consistent. It's the Nets.
If you take if you don't give John Collins that 30 real points in that just perfect scenario where he didn't get an obscene foul trouble, I think Trey Young has a top on him of 60 plus. I think that's very, very possible.
Yeah. You know what? I think
we got to stop. Absoluting 4-game sample sizes, right? And dig a little further back to last season.
Maybe 10% of him.
10 to 20 is usually the house rule.
Yeah, 20 seems a little high today with some other guys here. I do like that mid-range of 7-8K ranges of guys. But I think 10% is probably where I'll end up.
So Kyrie, I feel like the pieces that I really, really want are really high in price. But it's a giant slate, so there's going to be enough value to make it happen.
Yeah. It's just the Kyrie 60 game that Kevin Durant had last game. I can see Kyrie doing the same thing.
Yeah. I got 30 minutes on Bogdanovich, 5-4-5-3, depending on where you play. I think, no Gallo, no Rondo. I think 30 plus fantasy points isn't out of the question. He's gotten you 29 in 3 or 4 games so far. It's looking a lot like his Kings game log, right? He's one banana peel slip away from, a 32.
40 burger.
Yeah. So I think I'd add him to the mix behind Trey Young as exposure that I want from this game. And then just looking at my soft projections, anything else sticking out here? Nothing crazy. So just Trey, Collins, Bogdan for me versus Kyrie, KD. Do you have any Levert at 7-1?
No. With Kyrie and Durant in there, I just think his upside is obviously limited at that price. I mean, with those guys in there, I think the most I'd pay for a Karis LeVert, especially on a 10-game slate, maybe like 6,100. If that's 7,100, it's just high. Even at 6K, I'd be like, he'll probably get you 25 to 30.
Early on, the Atlanta Hawks have a 26.4% offensive rebound rate, really, really high. And the Brooklyn Nets have a 70.2% defensive rebound rate. That's an algorithm that likes put-back dunks, but I don't think I can get too far behind Capella until we see the top off his minutes. But maybe another plus for John.
5,500 is a good price.
Yeah. Is chat just dead today? Chat? Hello?
They're focused. It's giving them
unless my chat froze. Let's move on to the next game here. Bucks hosting the Chicago Bulls. Very, very slippery, intriguing game to break down. The Bulls, night 2 of a back-to-back, projected starting 5 for the Bulls. Kobe White, Zach Levine, Patrick Williams, Otto Porter Jr., Wendell Carter Jr., taking on Drew Holiday, Dante DiVincenzo, Chris Middleton, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Brook Lopez. 233.5 total. 14.5 point spread in favor of the Milwaukee Bucks. Ryan Arcidiacono, Chandler Hutchinson, Larry Markin, and Tomas Satoransky out due to COVID protocols, leaving this Bulls bench and rotation a little on the short side. Yesterday, Otto Porter led the entire day in fantasy points, and he's 4,400 on FanDuel. I highlighted him in my core plays video this morning. One of the things I like about Otto Porter is at his best, he could be a top 5 3-point shooter in the NBA. He's that good. The Milwaukee Bucks coming into the season, and so far this season, allowing a lot of points via the 3 ball. So I definitely think games will blow out. It's lopsided. But it seems like minutes should be there regardless for Otto Porter, just based on lack of warm, able bodies. And he could take 18 shot attempts and half of them from 3. And if he hits at a 40% clip, I think he could be a fine play. And he has enough length and lankiness to go out there and get some peripherals as well. So I kind of like that 4,400 price point on FanDuel. 1,200 more on DK. You got to think about it a little bit stronger. I think there is a world where this game gets blown out and the Bulls, it's just eating possessions in the fourth quarter and just takes a lot of spunk out of it. So I'd taper my expectations, but I would be happy with a 30 at 44, and I would just be meh with a 30 at 56. So I like Otto a little bit more on FanDuel. Kobe White and Zach Levine are two intriguing coin flips as well, because we look at the lack of guard availability. No Satoransky, no Arcidiacono. You would like to say in a neutral game, there's deep minutes there, but maybe even in a 20-point lopsided game, there's 35 minutes for Kobe White and Zach Levine. Kobe White's another guy that will chuck, maybe not as efficiently as Otto Porter, but it's still there, 61, 64. Could I get 40-plus fantasy points? It's not a short list, and it's not I think a median range of outcome, but it is a range of outcome that the responsibility in the game script calls for balls to be chucked, and we know Kobe and Zach Levine could both do that. If we look at the very, 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 very short sample on DVP so far, the Milwaukee Bucks have been much of the same as they were last year, allowing some guards to slip through for average plus games, and then a power forward here and there. Again, Giannis, I think I'm not going to – DVP is kind of flimsy as it is, but I'm not going to overweight 4 games of sample size just yet. But I do think Kobe White is worth a look. And I almost want to set a rule to not have Kobe and Levine, because it feels like the game script could be there for one of those two to pop, right? But I feel like if you put Drew Holiday on one of them, it neutralizes them and maybe lowers the ceiling a little bit. So I think
I kind of like just like this. I think this game blows out. Obviously, like you said, most likely it's going to blow out. But I'm just going to have one just kind of handmade line and have Levine, Kobe White, Otto Porter, bring it back with Giannis, filling in from there, just in case. Just in case.
I just feel like
I'm going to throw it in the tournament. I expected to blow out. But if this game stays close, I think all three of those guys at their prices, like Kobe White at 64, Otto Porter 56 on DK. I think they're definitely there. Zach Levine should lead this team 7,600. They're just like they can all hit close to 50 if this game stays close.
Kobe played 40 minutes yesterday.
Yep.
I think the minutes could just muscle his way there. I don't think that's crazy, but I do think for what each player needs to get that ceiling, I feel like there's a negative correlation between Levine and Kobe White's ceiling, but I guess if the minutes are 35 plus, I don't know, that game was way more competitive and it was the Wizards. I don't know, I just feel like there's a negative correlation between both of them having a tournament-winning ceiling, Kobe and Levine. I think Otto's still cheap enough in his own right to do well. Thad Young's back in the mix. Thad Young, a little bit of a older veteran, 27 minutes yesterday. Maybe they look at keeping his minutes a little bit lower on night two of a back-to-back, but as long as there's no information out there in terms of questionable or anything like that, if Thad Young gets 20 minutes in this matchup, is 3,500 too cheap?
That is real cheap with Thad Young. And again, I think I don't want to be too caught up in the Bulls just because they played Washington last game. Mm-hmm. So I think people might just look at their box score and be like, okay, right, it's literally the best matchup in the league.
Yeah.
So I get it at that price tag, 3,500 for Thad Young at the minutes. I get it. I mean, yeah, this is a 4-quarter game. He probably gets you 30, right? Like, I don't see how he doesn't.
It's not going to be a 4-quarter game in my – but the lack of depth, right? Those marketing minutes, those Hutchison minutes.
Damn.
He just might be a little too cheap, even if I put him at 20, 24 minutes.
All four of those guys really got their last game.
It's the Wizards.
I know, yeah, it is the Wizards.
But the minutes are so deep on all those guys.
Yeah, I mean, they lost guys, right? Like, so Satoransky played 20 minutes last game. He's gone. Archie he only played 8. Okay, it's fine. He's got, but marketing.
I'm talking about yesterday. There was 2 Wizards game. Yesterday was the one where half.
Yeah, Wizards. Yeah, marketing played 19 minutes. Yeah, so you got to replace minutes there, and I think all those guys, I think Otto Porter, Zach Levine, Kobe White, I mean, they all have to play 35. It seems like.
Yeah. Chat, what are we doing here? Eric Johnson says Bobby Porter's revenge in a blowout. I think so. If you bite in Porter, then you're definitely losing money. I don't think so. At 4,500, 4,400 on FanDuel, he literally has. I'd be satisfied with 35. Porter's a guy that in the right spot, I'd pay 65 for it.
But Giannis is a low-owned stud today. No one's playing Giannis. No one's playing Giannis because I think it's going to.
That's not what I heard this morning, but.
Okay. No, I think he's single-digit ownership.
Giannis has been getting traction, though. But, yeah. Blake Griffin to miss another one, take advantage. I don't really think there's anything to take advantage of in terms of obvious mismatch.
They've adjusted the price on the Detroit guys.
Yeah. Drew Holiday defense, think I'm good on Kobe White. So, Drew is a good defender, yes. But are we so sure that Kobe White's his victim, right? I'm sure he's going to dance between Kobe and Levine. But if I had to tell you right now, I need you to put Drew on somebody. Is it Kobe White or is it Zach Levine?
Yeah.
NBA players play defense. Had no idea. Some of them do. Thad Young had a good game. Like, Thad Young's price is just screaming at me. I feel like I have to take some shot there. Besides Chicago value fade. Giannis is a conversation, 11K, but I think the situation with Giannis is you got to have 4th quarter of basketball to really, really get that 70-point ceiling, right? I think today we're gonna need 400 fantasy points to win a tournament. I'm definitely not anti-Giannis, but this just seems like a lopsided affair. DKP by game log versus Bulls last 10 games. It's a fantastic spot for Giannis if it stays neutral for long enough. Last 10 games, 65, 45, 55, 71 and a half in 36 minutes, 67. We would want these. We definitely want the 65 pluses for tournaments here. Do we get it in 30 or less minutes is really just the question of the slate. And then Drew Holiday. I want to talk about Drew Holiday, maybe more so as a FanDuel play. 6,600. If you look at what he did against the Heat, 26, 33 minutes. Got you 30-plus fantasy points. The Bulls, I think, will turn the ball over a lot. Levine and Kobe White can get reckless. And that'll feed into Drew Holiday's strengths, especially on a FanDuel mindset. 2-3, 2. He's had 2+ steals in all but one game so far this season. I do think there's a range of outcomes for 40+ fantasy points because of steals. Drew Holiday is going to make him a solid FanDuel option. And yeah, I think that's it. Chat, we need anything else? Brook Lopez gets a lot of sneaky blocks last year. So far this season, the Bulls allowing 4.2 blocks per game. Last year, they were one of the highest block teams, is what it is. Minnesota, Washington stack with some low ones. I like that. Drew would be on Zach, Donate, and Dante would be on Kobe. That's how I would scheme it. Bulls still have 13 players today. Yeah, but it's not going to be like a 13-man specific rotation, right? 13 players might get on the court after it's a 30-point game in the fourth, but I'm not expecting like they really have 13 total, like left after maybe. All right, let's move on to the next game. Washington Wizards and the Minnesota Timberwolves. I think for me, this is another game stack opportunity. I like the Wizards and the Grizzlies. I like this game perhaps to even be higher scoring than the aforementioned game. Project starting five for the Wizards: Raul Neto, Bradley Beal, Denny and Isak Bonga, Thomas Bryant up against Ricky Rubio, D'Angelo Russell, Malik Beasley, Jarrett Culver, and Naz Reid. 234 total, 1.5 point spread in favor of the home team, Minnesota Timberwolves. Wizards, night 2 for back-to-back. No Russell Westbrook here. And that changes the team up a little bit. The two guys that I wanted to highlight, really 3 for DraftKings. Raul Neto, 3,400. I think he's going to be the highest. He might be the highest owned player on DraftKings today. Just because that price is awfully low. And when you look at what he did that last opportunity with Westbrook out, he dropped like 40+ fantasy points. 40 and a half. Yesterday, he dropped 29 in 22 minutes. Steals were there and had 15 real points based on shooting perfect from behind the arc. It's just a egregious mispricing. I honestly think if I were to run 150 lineups in DraftKings tonight, I'd probably just lock in Raul Neto.
Yeah, just lock him in. If you're doing 20, 100%, or 150, I don't think you have to go 100%, but 70,
I think I would. At 34, I think he's going to be over 50% owned. It just seems like a low risk, high reward. If you got 20 like at 40, I think is a little anomalic. Like we know Raul Neto is the backup Jazz guard or whatever. I think he had a cup of coffee in Philly. He's really just an average player. But at 3,400 against the Minnesota Timberwolves, I might play you.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a lock button special on DraftKings. Now, moving past him, Bradley Beal's 95 on FanDuel, 94 on DraftKings. This is a Bradley Beal opportunity to be 50+ fantasy points. I like Bradley Beal quite a bit, but I also think he might be a little overhyped for what his median range outcome would be. What are we looking for? Bradley Beal DKP by game log. Actually, let me just go to the on-off court tool on Fantasy Labs. So basically what I'm saying is if Bradley Beal drops 50 tonight, I feel like that's what you need. Like I'm going to have Bradley Beal.
You have to play it. Like you have to have him.
He's at least a 2, but I do think like there's like he's not an automatic like high 50s. I don't think it's automatic. I'm going to be so bullish on him. I'm gonna play him, but just my brain is like I don't know if he's like banking for 60 like the Phil wants to believe. Anyway, let's go to last year. Let's put Bradley Beal on. Let's put Thomas Bryant on. I remember I took them off. Remember a lot of big Bradley Beal games last year came with a very injury-riddled team as well, where it was just like him and Bertans. There was like Bryant down, Hachi down, a bunch of guards were down. So let's put Thomas Bryant, let's put Bradley Beal on. So far, this is last season. Let's take off some of these more higher usage guys. There's really no higher usage guys left, so we'll just leave that as is. And run the usage rates. 33.5% usage rate, 1.1 fantasy point per minute. So if we put Bradley Beal to play those big 38-minute games like we saw last year, is one of the leaders in minutes per game. Saw 35 minutes yesterday. At 1.1 fantasy point per minute, that'll push us at 45, 50 fantasy points. I think 20-plus shot attempts is a realistic projection here. I think very little resistance in the Timberwolves defense. So he is a guy I'm going to love a lot and just try and get that 50 out of him. But, like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, I don't think he's the lock of the century at this price. If he was 85, I'd be a little bit more, like, yeah, obvious tier 1 play. So I might – he's like a tier 2A for me, if that makes any sense.
Tier 2A?
Tier 2A. Like, I still think – like, my slot projections put him at 48. Like 50,
he could be
50's fine. Like 50's fine.
Yeah, 50's fine. At his ownership, you might need like 60.
No, I think if you got 50, like you're in it. But the requirement for me is like the bar is 50. In his like he's more expensive than Kyrie.
That's the thing. Him versus Kyrie 1v1 is interesting. Kyrie seems like definitely the tournament play.
Yeah. I think Bill will soak up a lot of that ownership. The other guy I like here is Thomas Bryant. I mentioned it on my video this morning. If you go back to last season for the Washington Wizards, Thomas Bryant led the team in a rebound rate, 16%. It was a bad rebound team anyway, but 16% rebound rate, a 1.2 fantasy point per minute. This year, the rebound rate's gone down because Russell Westbrook leads the team in rebound rate, and for him to be out here, I think I ran it this morning. There was already a 2% plus minus positive for Bryant's rebound rate without Russell Westbrook, and that was from a bulk of sample size coming against the Orlando Magic. Going against a team like the Timberwolves, I think it's even potential to get back to that 15% rebound rate for the team. At 6,300 on DraftKings, and then looking at his FanDuel price point at 58, I think he, kind of like P.J. Washington and some of those other 6K guys we talked about, I think Thomas Bryant could have a 40 fantasy point game in him in this matchup. So I like him a lot, and I like the price point on him. And somebody had just asked, what do I do with Bill and Bryant and how I prioritize it? I don't know. I guess is it crazy to think that Beal is more likely to let us down than Bryant? I feel like I'm the hot take guy today because I like Bill, but when you really the concept of salary and value, it just seems like the floor is higher for Bryant to hit his multiplier plus.
Yeah, I mean at that price tag, number 2 guy on this team, 6,300. If he gets you 40, you're probably 6,340 bomb is definitely better than a 90, 750 bomb at like 30% ownership.
Those are two for me. Davis Bertans is slowly getting more minutes. Rui Hachimura is back in the mix. So, yeah. Looking at chat.
And D'Angelo Russell has to be like a lock too at his price, right? I mean, that's...
Yeah, he is definitely somebody else I wanted to highlight. So let me go do that. I was going to catch him on chat for a second. Then we'll talk about him. I think Chris is going to be flirting with a triple-double today. Chris Milton, I can see that. Man, if I'm the Bucks and I still got like Giannis on my load management tour, this might be one of those games I think about. But yeah, Derrick Jones isn't a slouch as a defender. Wiggins not built like that. I'm not. Neto looked good yesterday. He was all over the court hitting threes. Raul Neto's just too cheap on DK. I would just literally lock that in. What about Hachimura? Hachimura is kind of. I don't really play him that much. I guess he is still cheap enough to consider. Shot volume should be there off the bench. But I'm not super stoked about it. Jeff says, I want to play Beal, but I think Curry matches him at a lower percentage ownership. I think it's possible. J. Cole. Beal going for an easy 30 real points, but it's the peripherals that scare me. I would agree with both of that. Does a back-to-back not concern anyone for Thomas Bryant? Not really for me. Not at this price. All right, so let's talk about the T-Wolves side. So Timberwolves without Karl-Anthony Towns. D'Angelo Russell does exist. He does exist. And I guess let's go just look at this season so far. Take Karl-Anthony Towns off the court. Come over here and put D-Russ on the court. And usage rate, 29.8% on D-Russ. He's averaging under a fantasy point per minute with a 26% assist rate. It's only 86 minutes of sample size. So I'm going to go elongate the sample size a little bit going into last season. Now, there's other variables of guys that are not on the team anymore, stuff like that. So we're going to take this with a grain of salt. But last year, in 12 games, 365 minutes of sample size without Cat, D-Russ had a 29.4% usage rate, a 30% assist rate, and just under a fantasy point per minute. Could that assist rate go backwards a little bit with Ricky Rubio playing a little bit more of traditional style point guard? Possibly. But D-Russ at 7,500 probably leaves us a tournament ceiling worth having a share of. 31 minutes against the Clippers, wrong side of a blowout, over a fantasy point per minute. Could I get 45 to 50 fantasy points out of 7,500 out of D-Russ today? I definitely think that's a viable range outcome. I also think if you look at a guy like Ricky Rubio at 5,200, a lot of people have already mentioned his name in chat. Somebody that I put him at 27 minutes, could push 30-plus fantasy points. I also think Malik Beasley has a big game coming. So far, the Wizards have been a team that rewards entire stacks, like the Grizzlies, like the Hornets, and this was the case last year, and even more so the case, you could argue, without Russell Westbrook. So you might get some names that you wouldn't expect from the Timberwolves to hit. You just look at what the Bulls' production was yesterday from a fantasy perspective. Could Jarrett Culver shock the world? 4,300, 4,100 on DraftKings. I got him at just about 32 minutes. 32 minutes against the Wizards' front court. Could Culver look more like the first two games, 25, 27 fantasy
You don't think
points?
Nazi Reed would be their number 2 here?
I mean, I think they're both there, but Reed, I got them co-starting. Reed, last game, 16 fantasy points. Clippers, tougher matchup. Lakers, tougher matchup. But if you get Reed to 25-plus minutes at 5,200, he's right there in the wheelhouse, too. I'm a little less I guess it's fine. I feel like I'm less excited, but basically what I'm trying to get is, the T-Wolves will probably have some guys here. I think Beasley and Culver are the two that are, really, really interesting to me, just because I got them for the second most minutes behind D-Russ. And you just look at what the Wizards have allowed this season, last season.
Team stacks have been winning slates against the Wizards, so I feel like you probably want at least 2 of these guys, and a lot like Russell. I think you can lock in like a Neto as a core play, but you just have to kind of pick the secondary guy here, whether it's Culver, Reed.
We've seen ceiling games from Malik Beasley, bruh.
We have. Remember him in his Denver days, did his thing. I can see his being number 2, getting there. Don't hate it. 5,800. Don't love the price, but
in tournaments, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. All right, so give me Bill, Neto, Bryant, and then shares of Rubio, Russell, Beasley, and then a little bit lower, I'm gonna have a little Culver, a little bit of Naz Reid. The only pushback on Naz Reid for me here, he's center only, and there's just so much juice at center for upside. And even for value's sake, but
you are giving up that center spot. You're giving up a Jokic, a Valanciunas, PJ Washington. So PJ Washington versus Reed. I'll probably go PJ Washington, I think, but could be close.
I go PJ, yeah. What else we got, chat? Could play Beal, Bryant, and Neto on FanDuel. You could do it on DraftKings too. It's probably easier to do on DraftKings because of Neto's price. Kind of agree with your take on Bryant versus Beal. DK Bryant may be safer. I think if we're just talking value points per dollar, that's where I am there on Bryant.
Quick note, my internet connection is jumping up and down, so if I disappear, I'll try to come back. It's weak right now.
Wi-Fi problems, am I right?
Yeah.
Am I wrong in thinking Gary Harris is a sneaky play? No. We'll talk about that, but Gary Harris, I guess no Michael Porter, but Will Barton. We'll talk about that. Favorite late game hammer. I'm still not there yet. Gary Harris will break the slate.
Can do it.
Let's move on to the next game. The Los Angeles Lakers at the San Antonio Spurs. A rematch of the birthday night from the 30th, right? Projects 35 for the Lakers. Dennis Schroeder, Kentavious Caldwell Pope, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Marc Gasol, taking on Dejounte Murray. Derek White making his season debut. DeMar DeRozan, Keldon Johnson, and LaMarcus Aldridge. Maybe a 230 total, 6.5 point spread in favor of the Lakers. Aldridge with a Q tag due to his knee. He missed Wednesday's game due to knee soreness, and he might be out again Friday. So Dejounte Murray, 7'4", 6'9", especially without Aldridge, was a great play last time out. Now you might argue Derek White being back in the mix could shake things up just a little bit. And there's still, if you think about what their guard rotation was in years past, there was like Patty Mills. Now they got Lonnie Walker in the mix. So there could be a 4-guard rotation, and then you're splitting with DeRozan. So I would say if Aldridge was in, considering the matchup, I'd be a little less excited about Dejounte Murray's price point. So that's where I'm at. Like if I get news that Aldridge is out, I start thinking a little bit more about Murray because I think he's a do-it-all stat stuffer. But Derek White being back in the mix certainly does adjust perhaps his minute ceiling, but also perhaps some of his guard responsibilities. DeMar DeRozan, if Aldridge was out, was hugging and chugging at a fine rate. So I think a lot of opinions of the Spurs and their fantasy relevance tonight pre-flop would really just be contingent on the LaMarcus Aldridge news. On the Lakers side, LeBron and AD, these big slates, they just kind of float by the wayside. And LeBron James, 10.4 on FanDuel, 10K on DraftKings. His last couple of games at 10K, I'd take, right? 50, 47, 55, 48. 3 of his last 4 games were 48 plus. A bucket away from a 50 bomb. If he's 9.9K right now in this matchup, that extra 100 plays with your brain. So, hey, you pay that 10K for LeBron, hope for that 50 bomb. He is cued with an ankle, so you watch out for that. Obviously, if he were to miss, that would open up the doors on Anthony Davis at 9.5, who would be right there at the Bradley Beal price point to make that conversation a little bit stronger. And then Dennis Schroeder, 6'2" on FanDuel, 6'7" on DraftKings. Definitely think there's meat on the bone on both sides. Perhaps on FanDuel, he's a little bit more alluring because he is a shooting guard. And today's shooting guard is basically Bradley Beal, and then it just kind of falls out. So I don't hate looking at Schroeder with or without LeBron. 30-plus fantasy points in his last 2 games and 33 or more in all but 2 of those games. And 2 of those games were blowouts. So if you think this game could stay within 15 fantasy or 15 real points, I think Schroeder's somebody that could get you there by hook or by crook for 30-plus fantasy points. I think that's kind of my take here. It looks like Raj did lose connection. So, chat, if you guys have any sweetheart plays from this game, throw them at me. But I think I'm going to be, it's a 230 total too, right? It's a pretty juicy total. It's one of the higher that we've talked about. Lakers are averaging 5.8 steals per game. I got that right? Yikes. Chat, what do we got here? Stack the Warriors running back with Nurk. Ooh, don't sleep on Bay. Kids got talent. Bay. Sadiq Bey from the Pistons. Okay. Denver Suns game's going to be lower scoring, says Antoine Murphy. I think that'll be a fun game to try and figure out. That guy owes me so much money, Gary Harris. Where's the kitty cat? Kitty cat is booked. Maybe in a couple weeks I'll open up a little bit more about what's going on. But there's a cat coming. There's a cat coming. What's this guy's Beal projection? What do you mean? What do I have for him? Bradley Beal, right now I got him at 36 minutes, 48.7 DKP, a little bit conservative. But that's what this guy's Beal projection is. LeBron is on cruise control. Jamal's playing Gasol triple-double tonight. Okay, buddy. Let me look at the voice chat. No, Raj is still gone. All right, so that's where I'm at on this game, chat. I'm going to move on to the next game, which is the Nuggets hosting the Phoenix Suns. Project starting 5 for the Suns: Chris Paul, Devin Booker, McCall Bridges, Jay Crowder, DeAndre Ayton, taking on Jamal Murray, Gary Harris, Will Barton, Paul Millsap, and Nikola Jokic, a 220.5 total, 3.5 point spread in favor of the Denver Nuggets. The Suns are on night 2 of a back-to-back, right? Playing the Utah Jazz last night. I think one of the toughest back-to-backs in basketball is the altitude of Utah into altitude of Denver. So the total is kind of, a meager 220.5. Denver favorited. We got news earlier that Michael Porter Jr. out. I think he has the COVID protocol. I don't know that Will Barton has to be an improvement defensively over Michael Porter Jr. It's a lateral at worst. So if anything, the matchup defensively got tougher for the Phoenix Suns with those back-to-back stipulations in mind. So I'm not really that stoked to play any of these Suns players. Maybe Chris Paul on the south side of 7K is just somebody that can muscle his way to a strong performance. But he's certainly somebody with his history I would be really cautious about trusting on a back-to-back. Booker's there. Like, there's not a lot of beef in my estimation for the Suns price point. So I'm leaning more so the Nuggets side. Nikola Jokic at 10-2, 10.6K. He is just, every time I play him, it's under 20% on FanDuel. Like, he's under 20% by the field. And he just keeps on serving them up, man. Big fantasy point games out of him, 60, 72, 74. That 51-point game, man, what can you do? But he missed the triple-double by a board. I'll be on board with Jokic, but it would be more so in lineups that I'm okay with going to grab raw points, and netting them back. Saw projection put him at 52, so it's going to be hard to fit in there as one of the highest priced guys on the slate, but I don't mind it. You can even argue that without Michael Porter, maybe some offense went up for him. Will Barton, 5K, 5,500. Will Barton, certainly somebody that can get a bucket. Maybe he's not as offensively skilled as a Michael Porter Jr., but I don't really think you're taking a giant step backwards. And going from 22 minutes, I probably pushed him to right about 30 minutes in my early projection here. I think that's fine. If Jamal Murray might take a step forward too as well in terms of what his fantasy output could be, but I'm really not shaking up too much of my player pool to fit in Denver as a whole. But I will have probably a high tier 3 stake in Jokic, maybe a tier 3 stake in Will Barton. I don't know if I land to Jamal Murray because I really do. I am kind of keen on Jrue Holiday right there at that price point. But keep an eye on Jamal Murray because he has been dealing with an injury. He took a hard hit to his head 2 games ago. And then last game he missed with an elbow. Says the Nuggets are hopeful that Murray will be available against the Suns with that elbow. So if he were to miss, you might see Monte Morris float up as a value play. It's kind of ironic that Monte Morris got priced up to 4.7K and Raul Neto is still like almost mid-price on DraftKings, right? What are you guys doing with this one before we get out of here? I saw you guys mention Gary Harris. I don't think I'm there on Gary. I do think he's cheap enough on DK that if he were to muscle his way to 20-plus fantasy points, like that's fine, that's there. But I don't necessarily think replacing Michael Porter with Will Barton does that for me. Maybe if Mike Malone puts somebody else instead of Will Barton in the starting lineup, maybe I don't know, JaMychal Green or a Campazzo, something like that. Maybe it gets a little weird. But Gary Harris is not really somebody I'm ever looking at to be a catalyst in real scoring. Double-digit shot attempts his last 2 games. One of those games against the Houston Rockets. I don't know. I think I understand the concept, the price point, but I don't necessarily think that usage is going to uptick for him just because MPJ is out. But I do think there will be kind of a spread out benefit to the rest of the Nuggets team. So at 39, if you felt like there's some meat on the bone, and I think there could be 3,900, anyone that plays 30 plus minutes could get there. It could be there. It could be there. I don't know. Hoops says, give me Joker. He'd be eating the Suns. I like Joker. Mike Malone's a mystery. He is. Isaiah Hartenstein. Yeah. Don't forget to hit the like. I would definitely appreciate you guys hitting that like button. We're at 189 live viewers, man. Could we get to 60? That would be lit. Who is more of a must-play today, KD or Beal? Ooh, that's a good one. Like I said, I might be the low man on Beal. I'm definitely like I love Beal. I love the everything he's got going for him. The usage is there, but I also just think Beal could have 35 real points and still somehow be an average play at 9K, right? Like I just think the peripherals may not be like super high. Is there a way I can? Let's go to Bradley. Let's go Bradley Beal, most DKP by game log last season. All right. Are a bunch of high 50s. 41 minutes, 39. The minutes were really something that was pushing Beal as a fantastic play last season at a 30+% usage rate. I think the minutes are still there for him this season, but there was also just a lot of injuries. I mean, they were stringing along a team of who's that. But you see a lot of these games, just these high ceiling games, just 46 points, 42, 53, 44. Is that possible? It's definitely possible. It's just so hard to feel comfortable with projecting somebody at 40 plus real points on night 2 of a back-to-back with a little travel. But I'm there on Beal. I'm just maybe not tier 1 coring him at that price. So when you compare him to Kevin Durant, who is not on night 2 of a back-to-back, who is facing a team that they just dropped 280 plus real points, is it crazy to want Durant? Maybe that's the tournament guy in me speaking. But Durant, I just know will fill up the stat sheet a little bit more and still might get me, 25, 35 real points. So, oof. I feel like I just feel so contrarian saying that, but I don't mean to be. Like, I think Bradley Beal is a fine play. I don't have him ranked above all these other guys. I thought he was going to then there's Malone. Yeah, Mike Malone is such a wild card for predictive value. Will Barton, 5.8K, 41 fantasy points in Denver last year. Will Barton's fine. Chinese food or pizza tonight if they are open. I'm going with more juice. I got a Smoothie King coffee. He had 44 point. Yeah, it's the 40 plus real point games. And it's very, very much a range of outcomes too. Like don't at all get it twisted. I think Bradley Beal could take 30 real shots here, but I also think like he's not having Hachimura, having Davis Bertans, having Thomas Bryant, the rookie now that they got with him, Denny. Like he actually has kind of a team. Last year it got really bad. I don't remember some of those lineups that the Wizards were rolling out there. They got ugly. There was like Mo Wagner's and Ish Smiths and Troy Browns and guys like that. And Troy Brown's like, I love Troy Brown, but like those are just like guys that don't really have that offensive button like some of these guys do. So I'm a little more trepidatious in ranking Beal as my pure number 1 over a KD or something like that. So that's just me though. I like Beal as a play. I don't know if I'm that confident. I guess Raj just fell off the face of the earth, right? DK, GPP, Beal and Durant, or Irving and AD. Hey, if LeBron were to get rolled out, Irving and AD is fun. Remember, Irving took 27 shot attempts in that game against the Hawks. He only shot 37%. But if he makes another 5 to 6 shots, man, that 41 is another 50 plus. And then, of course, if AD were to benefit without LeBron James against that Spurs front court, he should absolutely thrive. But that's definitely a contingent on LeBron's status. Clippers and the Utah Jazz project starting 5 for the Clippers: Patrick Beverley, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Nick Batum, Serge Ibaka, taking on Mike Conley, Donovan Mitchell, Bojan Bogdanovic, Royce O'Neal, and Rudy Gobert. 220.5 total, 3.5 point spread in favor of the visiting Los Angeles Clippers. We still got Marcus Morris out. Just a 3.5 point spread though here for the Jazz. Jazz playing night 2 of a back-to-back. So do the Clippers fall by the wayside in ownership, right? 9,200 for Kawhi. Dealing with that mouth injury. And then Paul George is still under 8K on FanDuel, closer to 9K on DraftKings, so got to make a tougher decision. But George has been coasting, right? You get George in these competitive games, The fantasy point per minute is extremely efficient. They're just getting in blowouts. I feel like every Clippers game has been a blowout. Even that Lakers game ended closer than what it felt like when you watched, right? Look at these last 3 games. Wrong side of a blowout against Dallas, no Kawhi. And then Minnesota, Portland, again, turned into 20-point games. So if this game could stay competitive and we actually get like that 35 minutes of Paul George, here's a guy that, I get the pushback at 87 on DK, sure, but he's been just fine. Almost triple-double yesterday, 3 assists shy. So I'll be right there on Paul George on FanDuel. And then Kawhi Leonard. I mean, both these guys are probably going to be suppressed ownership just as the late game. And as more alluring guys like Bradley Beal float to the top, Kawhi and Paul George do exist. And Kawhi's last 2 games, 47-51. Again, blowouts, keeping them at 30 or less minutes in those last 2 games. So if this game could live up to the spread, be competitive, I think they're in the mix for tournaments. I do. The rest of the Clippers are kind of ancillary plays for me. Lou Williams would be the one guy I kind of am curious with a little bit more. He is a point guard on FanDuel, isn't he? Lou Will? Oh, well, there's an O in Lou. When they start doing that, I think the thought, if I play Lou Will, my thought is there a chance Lou Will outscores Raul Neto at the same price? Because Neto's 45 as well. I think it's possible. So it's just when your brain starts running in deep field tournament game theory, I think that's why I would be looking at Lou Will. On DraftKings, you can't 1v1 Neto versus Lou Will. It's not even close. You got to go Neto for the value. But on FanDuel, they are the exact same price. And if this game stays a little bit tighter, Lou Will probably gets more minutes as well. I think he also suffers in blowout run because he is a veteran guard. So something to keep in mind. Those are 3 for me. Maybe deep field flyer darts on Luke Kennard, but I'm not pushing it. On the Jazz side, Mike Conley has been efficient. Rudy Gobert probably has a chance at 15-15 every night with a couple blocks. So far, the Clippers have only allowed 3 blocks per game, so not really a lot of sample size behind the season yet, but it is something to note. But I think Mike Conley is the guy that points per dollar kind of floats to me as a potential 30-plus fantasy point guy. And then, of course, 40-plus if they start putting defensive focus on a guy like Donovan Mitchell. Mitchell started out really hot last night after coming into that game as one of the players who had taken more shots than points scored. 23 shot attempts again. Just smooth 23 shot attempts in 3 games straight. Ended up falling shy of like a fantastic fantasy point game, but now he's on the south side of 7K. So I feel like if you follow Vegas with this spread and you think it stays close, maybe 6,800 Donovan Mitchell is worth some flyers. But I do think as a whole, the Utah Jazz don't feel that appealing to me. But I think if we keep this game competitive, I am there on some George and some Kawhi, right? Let's see what you guys got in chat before we move on. Thought Chicago was bad. Wait till you see Minnesota. Bye-bye, Raj. Smoothies are pretentious. Chew your dang food. Look it up. Peace. What I say about New Orleans? Blowout. What up, everyone? What up, Carl? Brooklyn, Atlanta run back. I like that. Who do you like more, Irving or Durant? I probably lean more Durant just because I feel like his floor is higher because the peripherals are there, right? Durant's going to give you those rebounds and defensive peripherals a little bit more than Kyrie will, and they probably take a similar amount of shot attempts. So probably Durant. But I do like Curry. Play Klay Thompson. He's due for a game. You're a funny man. You're a funny man. All right, we got 1 game left on the docket. Take a pause for the cause. Let you guys know that in about 30 minutes, I'll be in the RunDFS.com VIP voice chat, and you guys can jump in there as well. All you got to do is go to RunDFS.com, make yourself an account, get signed up, click VIP passes, find a pass right for you, week pass, 2-week pass, month pass, and it is January 1st. You can actually lock in for the entire year. That's going to cover my rest of NBA, rest of NFL, but also most of NFL season next year or next season. all of baseball. And then, of course, in the Discord, those guys are playing NASCAR. They're playing all these other sports. But I'll give you spreadsheets and daily content for those sports. And then, of course, we'll give you the daily voice chats in the 24/7 premium Discord channel. Looks a little something like this. There's guys from all over the world. Shout out to Pav. He's from Europe. But all over the world, chopping it up. I've said it time and time again. There's bankroll sizes in here of all different spectrums. There's people of all different cultures and ages. You guys know I hit for $18.5K 2 nights ago. 4 weeks ago, ABP won the Millionaire Maker. Like, I should just have that flashed. He's a millionaire. He's $1 million winner from DFS. He's in our Discord. He's been a long time VIPer. Adeen's won 100K. Jake's won 100K. There's a lot of big hitters, but there's people that grind quarter arcades. There's people that grind the 150 maxes, and there's single entry grinders like Young C. So whatever you are, there's something for you. But generally, it's just a great community to plant yourself in, make some friends, and then just have somebody to help you keep an ear to the ground on news throughout the day. Like when Siakam got scratched last night, if you were in the Uber ready to enjoy yourself, boom, everyone tag, hey, Siakam's out. You might want to make some adjustments. That's what we're there for. So come join us, have some fun. You'll get access to all that, and you'll get access to the VIP spreadsheets, including my proprietary projections and worksheets, my player pools for each site. And then, of course, we have NFL this weekend, last week of the regular season. Last game on the docket tonight, the Portland Trailblazers at the Golden State Warriors. Project starting 5 for the Blazers: Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum, Derrick Jones Jr., Robert Covington, Yusuf Nurkic, taking on Steph Curry, Andrew Wiggins, Kelly Oubre Jr., why can't I quit you? Draymond Green, maybe. James Wiseman, 235.5 total, 3.5 point spread in favor of the visiting Blazers. High spread here, high total, low spread here, which is saying a lot because the Warriors have not been a part of a lot of tight spreads, but the Blazers have certainly been underwhelming to start the season. So there is a chance this game stays competitive, which could bring out some really fun late night hammers, or if you're sitting up top when this game starts, you might start sweating some big games, right? There's isolated range of outcomes where Damian Lillard or Steph Curry just straight up or better raw points plays than a guy like Bradley Beal. So just kind of keep that in mind if you're playing big field tournaments. So far this season, the Blazers have just been allowing a lot of points. 118.2 defensive rating, actually worse so far than the Warriors somehow, and 43.5 points per game from downtown. The Warriors have also allowed a lot of points from downtown. So there is a recipe for big fantasy point games. I think with the Blazers, we kind of start and finish kind of with Lillard and McCollum. I know some of you guys are curious with Yusuf Nurkic. I think that's not crazy. I do worry about maybe Nurkic having a glass ceiling based on what his minutes will be for that team. But so far, Golden State has been very, very porous to opposing bigs in terms of fantasy points allowed. So I wouldn't push back on a lineup that you showed me that had Yusuf Nurkic. And then both these teams are struggling against guarding the 3-ball. Steph Curry, that's what he does, right? If I get him at 35 minutes, that type of usage, I'm a buyer. I'm a little less enthralled with Andrew Wiggins generally. He had a big game last time out. And the homie Kelly Oubre, hey, he got on the board. He hit a 3 finally. But he's only had 1 3 make it through the hoop to start the season. Unfortunate. But I still believe, that if you look at Kelly Oubre's game log, just from a fantasy point perspective, 27, 28, 11 and 20 minutes, that's not what you want. Milwaukee had a tougher defense. The game got out of control. 22 and 26 minutes. The point per minute is not far from being a point per minute. Or the fantasy production is not far from being a point per minute. And the peripherals are there, right? 11 rebounds, the block steals. Like, there's peripherals that are there that one day Kelly Oubre is going to shoot 40 to 60% in a game. And if he's under 6K and if he pushes that 30-minute mark, I think there's a game coming where he'll be a solid addition to a lineup. So I'm not going to give up on Kelly Oubre. Shooter's got to shoot. He's got to get through it. It's tough. But in tournaments, especially big fields like this, we want to get there before it happens, beat everybody else to punch, and hope for the best. I got him at 30 flat fantasy points projected. I think at under 6K, I'm going to have some shots there, probably tier 3 exposure to him. And then on the Blazer side, McCollum, Dame, sure. Enes Kanter, if he was a little bit cheaper, I think there's a range of outcomes where a fast-paced run-and-gun style game could serve up a 25 to 35 window. But at 4,700, median range of outcome, I saw projected to put him at 25. There's really just not a whole lot of meat on the bone left there. So, right? And then Steph Curry, 9.996. You guys know his usage will be there. Draymond is questionable. Or now he's probable. So Draymond's back in the mix. I don't expect Draymond to just be a high pure scorer. I do think that he's going to help peripheral-wise and maybe tighten up that defense a little bit. But for the most part, I think that's probably a plus for Wiseman because Draymond can facilitate, create some shots. But I'm not running to play Wiseman. I think I'm just at Curry, Oubre versus Lillard, McCollum. But I'm not super stoked. Those would be like tier 3 Bs for me, right? Let's see what you guys got in the live chat before we get out of here. I do got to wrap it up rather quickly. But I do appreciate everyone hanging out, man. We're at 220 plus live viewers. You guys are the best. Fact, no NBA champion has ever been blown up by 50 plus points in the regular season. Interesting. McCollum over Dame, late night hammer. There's certainly been games so far where McCollum outvalued Dame and sometimes outscore him. What's up, Crispy? Smash the like. I definitely would appreciate some likes before you guys get out of here. 200, almost 230, 62 likes. Could I get to 80? That would make my day. What up, Paul? Did the guy that won the Million Maker we're talking about enter 150 lineups? He did not. I don't remember how many he entered, but it wasn't 150. I think it was like 50 or less. Might have been like 20. Could you go full stars and scrubs tonight? Anytime there's a 10-game slate, that's absolutely an approach and probably a way that's probably the way to win. I think Neto and several other value plays. I think a lot of values at the 5 to 6K range today. Dan says, I'm a Blazers guy. Our defense will be terrible for about a month until we fully get with the new guys. Okay. Oubre's going to hoop now that he hit the first 3 of the season. Let's go. Anyone like Duncan tonight? Duncan Robinson? He's fine, but he's so scoring dependent that I'm not pushing it. Oubre has historically destroyed the Blazers. Okay. Dame likes to show out in Cali. Isn't he from Oakland? Lillard back in the Bay. He's going to go off. I'm with that. Dre being back helps Steph a decent amount as well. I would agree with that. So, yeah. Late night hammer should be fun. Tomorrow. What is tomorrow? What is tomorrow's schedule? Do we do another stream tomorrow? I would say maybe not just because NFL. Is there NFL games tomorrow? Usually last week of the season NFL schedule. There's no NFL games tomorrow. Maybe chat. Maybe if we maybe we'll do a live stream tomorrow. How many games are tomorrow though? Tomorrow after 6. 1, 2, 3, 5 games tomorrow. It's a maybe. It's a strong maybe. If we did a stream tomorrow, it would probably be 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central. So it's a maybe. Don't hold me to it. We'll see. But that's going to do it for this stream. I definitely thank you guys for joining. I'm so glad to see you guys here on the north side of 2021 year. I hope you guys had a fantastic night, had some fun, and you're ready to grind. A week or two, we'll have school back, and we'll have some fun with the year. We'll grind it out. So I'll be in the RunDFS.com voice chat in 20, 30 minutes, talking plays, making my lineups, adjusting projections, stuff like that. It's going to be a wild Friday night, but it's what we do. If we have fun with it. If you guys got anything else for me, twitter.com/GundackerSports is how to get in touch with me. DMs are open. If you would do me 2 favors before you leave. 1, hit that thumbs up, and then 2, just see if you're subscribed. If you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button. I don't even care if you turn notifications on. Just help me push the subs up. We're starting the year at about 5K subs. It would be cool to end the year at 6K, but maybe even get crazier and go to like 7K. And yeah, and we all have goals, right? So that's one of my goals, is to grow the channel to eventually get to double-digit subscribers. But I'm going to be more attainable, maybe 6-7K this year, and then we'll work from there. That's enough blabbering for me. I love you guys. I hope you guys crush it tonight. Good luck. God bless. And go win some money.